Okay, so again, I got cut off there right at the end there, but you can see how, taking those sliders will, and bringing this to the details of the white pixels here, we get a better lighting situation. So right now we're going to edit the saturation in Camera Raw, and the levels helped, but she still looks a little sunburned, so what we're going to do is even out her skin tone. And so we're going to go over to the layers. We'll go back to the start layer, and we're going to click on the HSL grayscale button display on that panel. So again, we go into our smart object and we go ahead and double click, and it brings us back into Camera Raw. And up here we have HSL grayscale, and we're going to click on that. And we're going to click on the saturation tab, which is right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to just move some sliders to reduce the amount of red in the skin. So I'm just going to reduce the red to a -2, reduce the orange to a -10, and reduce the magentas to a -3. Okay? And then we're going to hit OK and then go back to Photoshop. Okay, and it's just very, very, very slight. You could barely notice anything happening, but it just got rid of some of the bright reds. Now we're ready to give the model's face some attention here, and so we're going to be using the healing brush and spot healing brush to heal blemishes, smooth skin, get the red veins out of the eyes, and even hide the nose jewelry. So what we're going to do again is we're going to make sure you're active on the start panel. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually make a duplicate layer. And, and the reason for this is because we want to do some adjustments that we wouldn't be able to do on the smart filter. And we're just going to call this corrections. And click OK. And this way we preserve the original pixels in the smart object, and we can make changes later. So what we're going to first do here, because it's the duplicate layer, still a smart object, we're going to go up to Layer, Rasterize, Smart Object. And this will give us the ability to make different types of adjustments and use some of the various tools in Photoshop that we wouldn't be able to use on the smart object itself. So once we get that set, we're going to go to the spot healing brush. And the spot healing brush pretty much works, on its own to determine, if you remember from our first section of Photoshop, where it actually looks at the textures and details in the surrounding area, and it looks at adjusting it to make it more similar and thus remove some blemishes, etc. But we're going to make our brush size a 35, and the mode will stay normal, and we want to go content aware in our options panel up here. And then what we're going to do, and I'll just go ahead and increase this a little bit, and we're just going to click on the little tool there, and a single click might be enough. You might have to do a couple more clicks to kind of get it to blend in, making it look more natural. If you find, again, if you remember from Photoshop Class 1, if this tool does not give you the options you want, and you want it to specifically look for specific details, you can use the healing brush tool as well and click on your option key and actually select the area that you want it to look like, and maybe get a little bit more control over the tool that way. But for the most purposes, the spot healing brush tool will work fine in this area. And so once we've selected the content aware, again, we can paint over the lines around the eyes and the mouth. You can also brush away freckles, etc., and just kind of go through removing some of the blemishes that may not want to be there. It even works at getting rid of some of the fine lines on the facial features here as well. And you want to be careful. I like to work in short strokes with this tool because sometimes it can, again, when it starts looking at the details in a larger area, it's not going to be as realistic looking. I mean, you could even get into the lips and see about some of the lines in the lips. And again, you can see how that wasn't a very good option there. It doesn't look as realistic. And again, we're going to go ahead and change the size of the brush. We're going to make this a 45. Okay, and we're going to keep the hardness of the brush at 100%. And we are going to go ahead and use the healing brush tool that we just did. And we are going to select option. And we're going to actually select an area of her cheek that we want it to be similar to. And we can go ahead and you can see that it's kind of retained that same texture in the area that I did. You know, and again, you can hold down the option and do it in other areas as well. And again, this just gives you more control over using this tool. Now we're going to also enhance this image using the Dodge and Sponge tools. And this is a really, these tools are really good to use to brighten the eyes and the lips. And the Dodge and the Sponge tool are found actually right above the pen tool here. And we're going to select the sponge tool first. And basically what the sponge tool does is it's a saturation type of tool. And we're going to go to 35 for our pen, or for the size of our brush. We're going to take the brush hardness and stay at 0. And the mode is saturate that we want to go to. So I can use this to saturate an area as well as desaturate an area. Flow defaults at 50%. Generally, that's pretty good. If you find it's too much, you can reduce that or increase it if need be too. And basically, we're going to take the sponge tool and go over the irises in her eyes and make them just more saturated, giving them just a little bit more blue in color. And then we're going to change the brush size to 70. And we're going to go over the lips. Again, just kind of giving it just a little added perk of color there. Okay. And then we're going to use the sponge tool to desaturate the color as well. So we can move to the desaturate. And we're going to change the brush size to 45. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into the corner of the eye, and we'll increase this a little bit, and we're going to take it by the whites of the eyes and then just get rid of some of that redness in the eyes. And again, holding down your space bar will allow you to move the zoomed in image to where you need to do it. So we just brighten them up a bit. And then we're going to, with the Dodge tool, selected. Actually, the Dodge tool is what I wanted to do that with. That didn't do a very good job. We're going to take the brush tool and move that to 45. Okay, and hardness at 0. And we're going to change it to highlights. And we're going to change the exposure down to 10%. And then we'll lighten up the eyes even more. And you see how he gets nice white look here. You can get in the corners too as well. So it just adds more pop to the overall whites of her eyes. And then we're going to select the shadows. And we're going to use this to lighten the shadow areas above the eyes and around the irises to bring out the colors. And so we'll go ahead and do that. Okay. And now we'll get on to adjusting the skin tones. Now in Photoshop you can select a color range that targets skin tones, so it's easier to adjust the levels and the tone of the skin without affecting the entire image. And so what we're going to do here first is we're going to go up to our menu where it says select, and we're going to select color range. And in the color range dialog box we're going to choose skin tones from our menu. And now you can see how that has changed, because you can, select various different options here. But the skin tones is selecting more of the skin area around the model here. And then we're going to also then select detect faces. And now you can see how the selection has now changed even more dramatically to just the area around her face and hair highlights. And what we're going to do is we're going to decrease the fuzziness slider to 10 to refine the selection, and then we're going to click OK. And I'm just going to go Command 0 to bring this down. And you can see now that we just basically have the skin and a little bit of the hair selected, but the background area isn't selected. And you can see the little marching ants as they're referred to. And now another thing you can do too is if there's areas that you don't want to be affected here, I could just take my Option key, and take out some of these areas in the background that I don't want selected. And I'm just using the regular lasso tool for this. And so if you don't quite get the selection you want, you can certainly do some more selections to this. But this looks pretty good here. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to go to the adjustment panel, and we're going to go to the curves. And you'll see the box of the curves that come up here. And you can see that it added a curve adjustment layer right on top of the model here. And we're going to choose the red, red from the under the RGB menu. And you can see now that we're just working in the red channel for this particular operation. Now what we're going to be doing here is we're going to click in the middle of the graph, and we're going to just carefully bring down the slider. Now you have to be careful. You don't want to bring it down too much, because if we bring it down too far, we're going to get kind of a green cast to the face. Okay? And because we selected the skin tones before applying this adjustment layer, you can see that just the skin itself adjusted and the background layer just stays the same. Okay, so now we're almost done with the model, and as a finishing touch we're going to apply a surface blur filter to give her a much more smooth appearance. And so what we're going to be doing next is we're going to select the corrections layer on our panel, and we're going to make a duplicate layer, and we are going to name this surface blur. And now I'm almost out of time here, so I am going to stop this presentation here, and then we'll finish on with the next part of the surface blur component.